Hey friends, hope you're all doing well. I just want to talk about Formula One for a couple of minutes because the second race of the 2022 season is happening this Sunday in Saudi Arabia, and it's going to be awesome. I want all of you to watch it. I know some of my friends have expressed interest recently in wanting to watch their first Formula One race because they've watched the Drive to Survive series on Netflix, and now they want to transition from watching a documentary about last year's season to actually watching this season in real time as it unfolds. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here and kind of bridge the gap between the last episode of the last season of Drive to Survive and what's happening now in the 2022 season. So let's get started. Big change in the offseason is to the regulations. It's been the biggest rule change in like decades, and there are three main components to the big rule change. The first one is aerodynamics. They've changed the way that the cars generate downforce, and that was done in the hopes of making it easier for the cars to follow one another and easier for the cars to pass one another. And based on the first race of the season, it's worked. But what's also exciting about it is that every team has had to completely design a new car from scratch, and that is very cool. Second big regulation actually has to do with spending. They put a spending cap in. In the past, spending was unregulated so that these teams that have bottomless pits of money can throw tons and tons of cash at these very small performance advantages. That's all gone away, and that was done in hopes of shrinking the gap between the fast teams and the not so fast teams. And then they've also done one more thing, and it's a development cap. So it's kind of a sliding scale. The teams that finished highest in the championship last year get a little bit of a penalty, and they get less development time than the teams that finished lower in the championship. And again, it's to bring the gap closer. And based on the first race of the season that happened last weekend in Bahrain, it worked because the racing was awesome. Okay, they did some preseason testing, which that happens every year, but this year was particularly exciting because it was our first time to see these brand new cars out on the track. And what was super cool was that the teams all had different theories on how to best make their cars go fast. And the easiest way to see that is in the side pods, the side pods, the things around the drivers. Those are all really different shapes, so it's super exciting. So the main takeaway is Red Bull, they were fast last year, they were fast again this year. Mercedes, they were fast last year, they were fast again this year. They had a couple of struggles, which I think they're paying for now. Ferrari looked amazing. They crushed it. They looked super fast. And then McLaren, who I thought was going to look super fast, actually looked really slow. They didn't get as much testing done as a lot of the other teams, and now they're kind of on their back foot, partially because they had some mechanical issues, so they couldn't turn as many, testing laps as the other teams, but also Daniel Ricciardo, one of the drivers, contracted COVID, and the drivers need to figure out how to drive these new cars, so Daniel Ricciardo was on his back foot as well, and that showed in the first race. McLaren really, really suffered, and they weren't fast. They'll get there. They're an awesome team, but I think it's going to take a few races for them to really kind of figure out how to make their car go zoom, zoom, quickly. Yeah, that's preseason testing. Moving on. What do we have? Driver changes. There have been some driver changes. Not a ton, but the ones that have happened are pretty important. The biggest one, I would say, is that Lewis Hamilton's teammate was Valtteri Bottas for 5 years. Not anymore. Valtteri Bottas went to Alfa Romeo, and then George Russell is now on that second seat, in that second seat with Mercedes, which is huge. He left Williams, and then the person that took over his seat at Williams is Alex Albon, which is super cool. Alex Albon drove for Red Bull, and then he lost his seat. Now he's back, and he's young, he's talented. He definitely has potential to have a future in Formula One, so that's really exciting. We have one true rookie this year on the grid. His name is Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu. He's from China. He's the first Chinese Formula One driver. He competed in Formula 2 last year. He was wicked fast. He's an incredibly smart and well-composed driver, and I think there's a chance that he will be competitive this year as a rookie, which is super cool. And then the last change is probably the most exciting for me, and has to do with Haas. Haas is the only American racing team. It's owned by Gene Haas, and they had two rookies last year. It was Mick Schumacher, the son of legend Michael Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin, who's from Russia. For obvious reasons, Haas has chosen to divest from Nikita Mazepin, and he will not be driving for Haas this year. So they had to replace him. Who'd they replace him with? Kevin Magnussen is a guy that drove for Haas in the past, and he's back. He's a known entity. He's a good driver. And what's exciting for me is the fact that Mick Schumacher, we now get to see how good he is. Because last year, he was driving a car that everybody thought was slow, and the only other person driving that slow car was his teammate, who was a rookie, who also, unfortunately, a lot of people thought was really slow. So it was hard to say how good Mick Schumacher really was. But now the Haas, the car, and the team look awesome. And we have Kevin Magnussen, who's a known entity. We know that he's a solid driver. So now we really get to see how Mick Schumacher stacks up throughout the season, which is super exciting. Okay, those are the driver changes. First race happened last week in Bahrain. Super, super exciting. I think the rule changes have worked. Also, it's worth noting that they changed the size of the wheels. They used to have 13-inch wheels. Now they have 18-inch wheels. I don't think it was a major factor in the race, but they're going to bring it up probably throughout the entire season. So I'm bringing it up right now. But first race, super exciting. First thing happened before the race even started. Sebastian Vettel tested positive for COVID, and he couldn't race. And he was replaced by a former Formula One driver for Renault, a guy named Nico Hülkenberg. And as of now, Sebastian Vettel still hasn't tested negative for COVID-19, so there's a chance that he won't be able to race in this race this coming Sunday in Saudi Arabia either. So Nico Hülkenberg might get 2 starts this year. Mercedes, not a huge surprise, but a little bit surprising. They weren't super fast. They were clearly slower on race pace than Ferrari and Red Bull. Again, they'll get there. They're an amazing racing team, but they're on their back foot. And Ferrari and Red Bull had an epic battle for the entire race. It was amazing. Right up until the last couple laps when both Red Bull engines exploded. So neither car could finish the race. And that's not great because if the championship is going to be as close as we all think it's going to be, then not scoring points for either car in the first race of the season, not a great way to start. And that might end up coming back to bite him in the butt later in the season. And again, I think what was most exciting about the race this past weekend was who came in 5th, because Ferrari, 1st and 2nd, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz. 3rd and 4th went to Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. And then right behind that in 5th place, Kevin Magnussen with Haas, which is awesome because they didn't come close to scoring points. Well, they came close, but they didn't score any points last year. Haas might actually make this huge leap from being a miserably poor team. Sorry, Gene. But, last year was not a good year for them. And now coming in 5th, and Mick Schumacher came in 11th. He almost scored points. We almost had double points, which was awesome. So those were kind of the big things, along with Guan Yu Zhou, first race as a Formula One driver, scored points. And that is super noteworthy because if you're a rookie and you go out in your first race and you finish in the top half of the field, that's worth something. So super exciting. That's basically everything that's happened up until this point. Now this Sunday is race 2 of the Formula One season. It's in Saudi Arabia. Qualifying happens on Saturday, and qualifying is on ESPN2. And then the race is on Sunday, and that's on ESPN. Have an awesome time watching it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.